So I've got agrostemma in various stages of flower development here. So these are the buds, and then as they open you can see they give a twirl of petals. Here's one here, look at that. And then this is probably about the perfect time to pick them, or this, and let them open in a vase. And then they'll get pollinated, and then they'll slowly drop their petals. But there are so many buds, so just keep deadheading them and do a succession sowing. So once in the autumn, and then again in the late winter, and then you'll have flowers for months. I've been enjoying these so much. So I'm just potting on the agrostemma. You can see, look, the roots have filled the 40 cell tray beautifully. They've stayed inside the cells, just a tiny little root poking through, searching for water. But most of the roots have just stayed where they're supposed to be, in the cell, where the water is, because we've watered them consistently. They're beautifully big now. So in order to carry on this growth, we need to give them a bit more space, which is what I'm doing here. You might also find that, like me, you've got a couple of cells that have got more than one seed that has germinated. So it's a good time now to separate them, because look, if I show you, if I bring this one over, can you see already that the plant that's got its own space, water and nutrients, is actually doing slightly better than the two plants that are sharing the water, space and nutrients. But by dividing them now, you can see they've grown really beautifully. You'll never be able to tell later which were those that were sown one seed per cell and which were sharing. So I'm going to divide that for you now. It's ever so easy. These are quite tolerant of being separated, but what I am going to do is just have a look to see where I can divide them so that each plant comes away with plenty of roots still encased in the compost. So if I look here and I put my fingers right there between the two, and then just slowly tease them apart. There we go. So I'll plant these on separately, just in the same way that I will with the single plants, and then a couple of weeks time you won't be able to tell the difference about between which plant was sharing and which plant had its own cell. Now you can, if you want to, put some compost in the bottom. I actually never bother, because the roots will just come out from the sides anyway. So I tend to pop them in just as they are, and then I can fill the cell up to the top, and that will provide some extra support to the plant from the physical support the compost will give it. Quickly do another one for you. Now don't worry about these seed leaves, they will wither and die naturally. The plant uses these when it first germinates, and then once the true leaves come through, the plant doesn't need them anymore, so they will wither away. But you can see that these are quite big and they are starting to lose a little bit of their greenness, and that's just because they're hungry. So we're going to be solving that problem by potting them on. I thought this is another good example to show you how to divide them, because these are a bit bigger and a bit closer together. So I'm just going to put my fingers in between. That way I'm not pulling on the stems and I'm not risking accidentally snapping the top off. You can, if you want to, just get a pair of scissors and snip them out. If you don't feel confident and you've got enough plants, you can just get a pair of scissors, snip them out, and then just pot this one on singly. But if, like me, you can't bear to get rid of any plants, even though you've got enough, you can just divide them. There we go. They won't even notice that they've been moved. So I'm just going to shake off the compost that's sitting on top of the cells. You might well find that the compost levels drop a bit. Oh, there's a weed there. Definitely get that out, because that will be stealing water and nutrients from your plant. But you might well find that after watering, the compost is so fluffy at the moment, it might drop a bit, but that's okay, because there's more than enough compost, even if it drops, for the plants at the moment. And then we can just go along later and give them a little top dressing. Just needs a water. Just be careful, as I've said before, be careful when you pot them on. You have this extra compost which will hold on to more water than the 40 cells would have done, and that can lead to overwatering. So I'm going to water these gently, and then I won't water them again until they need it. I'll make sure that I test the compost, and lift the tray is always a good indication that the compost needs watering, because especially if it's a sunny day, the top surface of the soil can actually look quite dry. It'll just dry off in the sunshine. However, where the roots are further down is actually quite damp still. So lifting the tray is always a good idea, as well as testing the compost. So a little revisit of the plants that we've already potted on. We have the sweet rocket here, the legend, that is the light pink. Now I'm not doing the cuttings just yet, because you're going to take away the top growth and then they're going to have no roots. So they need to grow new roots, and for that you need warmth and you need light. And at the moment we've got neither, so I am saving them to do a little bit later. Over here we have the Ami Majors, looking absolutely brilliant in their new cells. And then right next door we have the cornflowers, all settled in. You remember we did these together, and you can see that distinctive foliage is really starting to come through now, so we'll be able to tell the difference between those and the agrostemma. And then I thought you might like to see some agrostemma plants that I potted on just a couple of days ago. Look how well they've settled in. A little bit of compost on the foliage, just because I'm not overhead watering at the moment. I'm just using a small watering can because I don't want to flood the trays, but that's fine. The plants don't mind a little bit of compost. Look at those. And these are really good, because you can also sow these, because they've got a really good root system. They do really well from a late winter sowing. So if you haven't grown any yet, or you fancy doing some more, then we can get a packet of seeds sent out to you from the January seed shop, and you can have a little grow along with me. They'll just be flowering a bit later and a tiny bit shorter, but they are actually excellent from a late winter starting. So well worth doing. Goodness, it's a bit drier in here, much nicer. So these are the agrostemma that I am growing in the greenhouse at the moment. There's two colours, the Sensation Mix and then also this beautiful white, which is just so useful. I use it so much in the spring. All the information for doing your second sowing is in the Autumn Started Handbook, so you've got all the information already. And if you only bought one packet in the autumn, then you can always treat yourself and get the second, because there's loads of seeds in your packet, so then you'll have plenty left over for the next Autumn Jump Starter, which will be, it's almost this year. It will be this year. This is agrostemma, and it's going to be available from our Autumn Jump Starter seed shop, and I'm going to show you how to grow it. Absolute cracker. It's the 28th of May, so it's a nice early and very tall flower. It's just about as tall as me.